In my chapter on learning versus performance, I discuss how there's a very distinct difference between learning and performance in our classrooms and how all classroom teachers need to understand this. Now, unfortunately, traditionally and historically, Teacher 1.0 hasn't really had a handle on the difference between learning and performance. What this has meant is that as teachers, we have recorded test scores, exam scores, and we've used that as a proxy for learning, when really that might just have been how the student performed at that time and on that given day in the exam or the test. So what does that mean? Well, actually, there's lots of things that influence the performance of a student. Externally, they might have had a row with their parents, they might be hungry, they might be happy, they might be sad. Something might have happened outside of school which will positively or negatively influence how they perform on the day. Maybe it's hay fever. Lots of us have had hay fever and we don't feel great when summer exams come on, especially with 200 people in the sports hall. Internally as well, we also have a massive influence on our students. So we might have classroom posters up in our classroom when we're doing a test and the answers are on the wall. We might have done a revision session the night before, which obviously positively influences the outcome of that test. So we need to be really, really careful about whether or not we're actually observing performance or real learning. Now, the research behind this comes from Schmidt and Lee, and they talk about how real learning should not be observed and can't be observed during practice, and it needs to be observed far later down the line. So actually after practice is finished, because in practice, there are too many things that influence it and it's too much in our short-term memory. So it needs to be actually observed further down the line, maybe weeks or even months after the practice has ended, to see whether real learning has taken place. In the Teacher 2.0 section, I give a few examples of how this can work. First of all, stop doing revision sessions the night before or the lesson before an exam. If you've written an exam yourself and you're doing a revision session, then you're not going to give the students items that are not on the exam. You wouldn't want to do that. So you're positively influencing the outcome of that test. Your students do well and then you're really happy. Well, they were always going to if you've influenced them by giving them the topics that are going to come up on the test. And also you can think about retesting a week later. Yes, it's okay, you've done well this week, but actually how much will you learn if I do the same test or a similar test on the same topic in a week or 2 weeks' time? Have you actually learned it, or is it just a performance on any given day? To learn about this and more about how the science of learning can impact your classroom practice, pick up a copy of my book, Teaching Rebooted.